A major winter storm is taking shape on this Saturday, and it's moving east. It's going to bring heavy snow, some of the heaviest we've seen in a decade across the I-70 corridor. Just to the south of that heavy snow, significant ice, the type that could break trees, it could put power out. It's going to cause a lot of problems. And on the southern side of it, some severe weather too, and even some tornadoes as we head into Sunday. And that could put also a heavy dump of snow into parts of northern Virginia. We're going to look at that closely too. Multiple winter storm warnings out in the pink here. Head to weather.gov to see what you're under, and even some winter storm watches further east. Here's a look at the heavy snow that I think is going to happen across Kansas. Further to the east, there'll likely be a sharp gradient to that snow on the northern side of it, and there's still some wobble potential to this. And I think, again, you've got to watch here into northern Virginia for some changes. The ice will be significant. Some areas will see more than 1/4 of an inch, up to 1/2 an inch of freezing rain. That's that liquid precipitation that freezes on contact, the type that just gridlocks things, that clings to everything, trees, power lines, all of those things. And that's going to cause widespread power outages. Just for kicks, I want to compare the European model. So if you're wondering about the snow and why we don't have winter storm warnings further east, look at the uncertainty here in the European, now dumping still 1 foot of snow across northern Virginia, and a lot of snow into Richmond too, with a good 4 to 8, maybe even more. And parts of the DC metro, even the National Weather Service is saying somebody could see a swath of 8 to 12. So you can see the uncertainty and why they're there. This is also the look at the freezing rain across this region, more than 1/4 of an inch possible. This is going to cause major disruptions to life as we head through the weekend. And I'm talking about driving, getting out and doing things, maybe even power outages, and it's just going to be a headache for this region. To the south, the severe threat increasing with an enhanced area of severe thunderstorms possible on Sunday. That's a 3 out of 5 across parts of Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, into Texas too, especially into East Texas. And then that will move east as our front moves off to the east. The potential for some tornadoes also on the table for Sunday. And then the severe threat moves even further to the east as we head into Monday morning and Monday afternoon. The best chance for the heaviest snow will be here, but I want to show you this. I want to back this up. This is the ensemble data. This gives us an idea of what our next storm is going to do, because it looks like we've got some snow coming into Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, maybe even northern Alabama and Tennessee, as a pretty decent storm takes shape and starts to move east. Now, our first storm is going to move through, and now we're looking at the next one forming across the Gulf Coast. The numbers are starting to grow. The guidance as far as our ensemble data, which uses a variety of models, showing more snow potential across Texas into Arkansas. This is the early morning GFS. This looks like a snowstorm. I'm going to say it for parts of Arkansas up into West Tennessee, Kentucky, and we could even get some ice mixing in here across northern Mississippi and Alabama. It's still really early. We're talking about 6 days out, but the agreement is starting to show up on the European, also the GFS, and this could put more snow once we get up here into the Ohio Valley, into the Mid-Atlantic again. And this one may move a little bit further to the north and east. Maybe it'll get you a little bit of snow into New England. The jury's still out on that, but that's something that we will be watching this week for sure together. So if you've not subscribed, I hope you will. If it's your first time, I'm Travis. Welcome. Thanks for watching the video. I got out of meteorology many years ago, but I found myself looking at these types of things. And if you like this kind of content, and if you made it this far, I hope it means you enjoy this type of weather stuff. We're going to dig into some really detailed things now. By the way, this is the ensemble guidance for snow accumulations. This flattens things out. There could be more, there could be less. And I think this gives you the bullseye idea of where the heavy snow would be on the European ensembles, which is also picking up on that snow. All right, let's detail this a little bit more. I know I went through it pretty quickly. We're going to go in a little bit closer here with our snow as it moves into the west. First, we've got that snow going today across the Rockies. Another storm moving into the Pacific Northwest, unrelated to this. That's going to bring more heavy snow to the Cascades. But today, our storm starts to get organized across the plains. We've already got the ice, the sleet, the snow going across parts of Kansas. It will pick up as we head into the afternoon and evening hours as low pressure deepens rapidly here across parts of Oklahoma. On the north side of it, that shallow layer of cold air creating a freezing rain, sleet, and snow. And then on the back end of it, right here, you can kind of see it in your height lines. That right there is cold air aloft. And when that moves across, I think we're going to get a significant amount of instability, maybe even some thunder snow and a deformation zone, I guess, if you will. And you're going to pop over to some really heavy snow. And that's when your big accumulation is going to be for a lot of Kansas. Our low continues to move off to the east. Our severe threat picking up across East Texas into the south on the southern side of this with a lot of wind shear, a lot of instability. To the north of that, a winter storm is raging with freezing rain, sleet, and snow from central Illinois, central Indiana, back into northern Missouri with the heaviest snow, and then a heavy wintry mix on the southern side of this. It continues to push off to the east, that warm air surging north, changing some of that mix here on the southern side of the freezing rain across southern Kentucky, also northern parts of Tennessee, over to plain rain as we get that warm air advection or movement north. On the north side of that, a heavy band of snow, and even back into parts of, I would say, Missouri. That deformation zone still back here, that is where a heavy band of snow on the back end would combine to up our totals even more. So I got to watch this in this trough here in the upper levels. That's cold air aloft. So now you've got the instability moving through behind your main system. So there could be a second punch of snow. Even if you get a bit of a break, I think there is going to be a second round of it, and that could impact areas like St. Louis, north up to Quincy, and then over to central Illinois towards Springfield, and then into southern Illinois eventually. And now our storm moving east, and we could even see rain back here across Tennessee and Kentucky transition over to some snow as cold air wraps in behind this, that cold air aloft moving right overhead. So now you got your upper level cold pool moving through. So I think we get some snow. That could put it into Nashville, maybe even into parts of western and southern Kentucky, and then in northern Kentucky, where we've seen mostly a mix of sleet and freezing rain, we'll likely go over to some snow, and we could put down a few more inches behind the system as it moves through. Here's a look at things a little bit further to the east, and my uncertainty is really strong here. Again, the National Weather Service only has, and I want to say only, it's still a big deal, winter storm watches out for a good chunk of Virginia, and it does include the Washington, D.C. metro down to Richmond, and these would likely be upgraded as confidence continues to grow up across the D.C. area. We've got a slew of winter storm watches out. I mean, pretty much everybody here is under some type of watch. Winter storm warnings going back across the mountains. A lot of this is related to the snow that's ongoing right now downwind of the Great Lakes, and some of that upslope snow too that continues to fall. All right, so we've sort of talked about that mix here. That was the snow outlook. This is the official forecast from the National Weather Service. They're still putting a good 4 to 8 inches of snow here toward Richmond. So the idea that snow is going to be coming to central and northern Virginia is still there. The further south you go, much less. In fact, hardly any snow, if really any wintry precipitation the further south you go. You may get more freezing rain and sleet down here that transitions over to rain, but the further north you go, up into D.C., into southern Pennsylvania, heavy snow looking more and more likely. As our low moves closer, let's take a look at this. I want to show you something too. We're going to start at some heavy freezing rain, sleet, and snow across southern West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, southwest Virginia, maybe even into the mountains of North Carolina. That cold air is being held in place, but it's not being really supported by strong high pressure to the northeast. So your cold air likely would be scoured out into North Carolina, and you go over to rain. That cold air also getting scoured out across eastern Kentucky, the coal fields of West Virginia, far southwest Virginia. We even see that push into parts of almost northern West Virginia. And that cold air gets trapped, though, up here just to the north of Charleston, and then into eastern West Virginia, and then into northern Virginia, here into the Shenandoah Valley, and then into the D.C. metro, and maybe even as far east as Richmond. On the northern side of that, heavy snow moving through Ohio, northern West Virginia, Pittsburgh. This is very close to you. The newest NOAA model puts the heaviest snow just south of town here. It's very close. It puts it right along the PA-Maryland border. I've been preaching the PA-Maryland border for the last 5 days, I feel like, and I'm telling you, now that we're in the NAMS, I guess it's sweet spot for forecasting, it looks to me like that is an area where we're going to get a thump of snow. As we move through the day Monday, that snow continues to push to the east. Now we've got the ice and the snow transitioning over to all snow. And on the back side of this, as your cold pool that is moving through in the upper levels, or upper level disturbance, as you will, you may have heard that. It's just some cold air aloft. As that moves in, we quickly transition over to snow. So there could be snow maybe in areas where we don't see a lot of snow usually, maybe even down to Virginia Beach, along the eastern shore of Virginia. And then into the Delmarva, I think this is going to be a very close rain, snow, sleet, freezing rain mix. And the further north you go up towards Philadelphia, to me, into New Jersey, it looks like it's all snow. The NAM model trying to put some of that heavier snow very close to New York, but it's definitely putting it now into New Jersey and into eastern PA, not up really into the Poconos, up into northern PA. Mostly it's a southern PA storm, and then that moves out to sea pretty quickly, and we are done with it. Let's go back to those snow totals. I showed you this one. This is the official forecast numbers. Look at the difference in the European from today. I mean, this is a global model. I trust those shorter range models like the HRRR, which, by the way, the 3K NAM is also showing that idea, and it gets a little better here, I think, in my opinion, of picking up those finer details, and this will get better too, I think, today and tonight for this region as our storm gets formed across the plains, and it'll give us an idea of what we're looking at as we sample this storm and get better data to put it in. Again, it's one of the reasons the winter storm watches are out right now, because nothing is certain. The confidence hasn't grown to the point where they're issuing warnings. A closer look at the snow here across Ohio into West Virginia. This is the official forecast numbers. A sharp gradient across Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. Southern parts of Illinois and Indiana would likely see that mix over to freezing rain and sleet. Further to the west, snow looking likely. Again, from St. Louis, really north of St. Louis, that's going to be your best chance of heavy snow. This is the official forecast. So forecasted numbers are more than a foot of snow for Kansas City. This is going to be a crippling winter storm, especially the further north you go of Kansas City, with heavy snow, maybe even going to sleet and freezing rain for a while. And then across Kansas, I think these numbers may be a little bit too low, because if that deformation zone forms on the back end, you get that cold pool, then your thump of snow puts down, close to 20 inches of snow in some areas. So this is going to be a Topeka, Manhattan, over to Kansas City. North of that, I think the big snow will fall here. Ice is going to be a big deal. Let's start in Kansas and move east. More than 1/4 of an inch of ice possible. This is the forecast. This is not modeled data. This is numbers from the National Weather Service. Heavy icing here across central Kansas. Heavy icing continues across Missouri too. Most of that ice would be south of St. Louis, just north of the Arkansas-Missouri border. A lot of ice here, and then into Kentucky. We're going to see that snow, sleet, freezing rain mix move through as we head into Sunday. And we could get, again, more than 1/4 up to 1/2 an inch of freezing rain. And I don't know that we don't see more in some areas, because the liquid equivalent precipitation is pretty high in these areas. Further to the east, again, up into D.C., we may stay all snow, but you got to watch Virginia and West Virginia, also into eastern Kentucky. Some warm air surging north into this part of the world, up across southwest Virginia, southern West Virginia. So I think we transition to rain, but watch out here on the east side of the mountains as we get that cold air trapped in place here. As that warm air aloft moves overhead, that cold stubborn air at the surface doesn't. So you get the freezing rain. A lot going on with this winter storm. It's something I'll be keeping up with. If you enjoy this content, I hope you'll come back. I'll see you next time.